I send over 1.2 million emails a month for my clients, booking over 1,000 sales opportunities on average. And I've gone from living on $200 a month to now owning the fastest growing cold email agency, doing multiple seven figures. And today I'm going to share the exact lessons that helped me generate over $8 million for my clients through cold email alone in just 7 months. And I'll make these lessons super actionable so you can implement them immediately. Let's get right into it. So first things first, you want to use cost-effective mailbox setup tools. I don't think it's worth anybody's time to actually set up DNS records or mailboxes manually nowadays. It takes a whole lot of time, and there's a lot of providers out there that buy mailboxes by the 100,000, getting bulk discounts, and will actually sell you to them for less than retail, including all the setup of the actual domains, mailboxes, so you can just easily import them into your sending tools. Instantly.ai will set up G Suite mailboxes for you. Cheapinboxes.com is one that we have thousands of mailboxes with as well, and we also really like Maildoso because they have a really great UI. I would recommend looking into some of the apps that are out there. Maybe try setting them up yourself and really comparing, but to be honest, it's not worth the time, and it's actually cheaper just to pay a third-party person to do that for you. Number two, you want to focus on the 3 pillars of cold email success. Success in cold email really hinges on 3 things. That's going to be inbox deliverability. Are you actually landing in the mailbox? Number 2, are you targeting the right people? And number 3, are you actually crafting high converting copy? If you're missing any one of those things, then you're actually not going to convert your prospects into buying customers. So you want to make sure that you're auditing your sending infrastructure. You want to make sure that your prospect lists are actually refined and really well built out, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And you want to perform A/B testing on your copy, or even better, A, B, C, D, E, F testing. There's no way to know what copy is going to convert best without running experiments, but optimizing these 3 pillars is going to increase response rate and ultimately drive more sales for your company. Let's move on to the next step here. When it comes to building prospect lists, you should always build them based on actual buying signals. So identify clear signals like potentially new hires, software purchases, or funding events. Tracking these signals such as job postings or key roles is actually going to give you a much better chance of actually finding people who are uniquely positioned to buy your product and service now and today. Using old traditional methods like just tracking company size or job title simply isn't enough to get the conversion that you want over cold email. You want to make sure that you're not watering down your cold email efforts with a bunch of leads who have no evidence that they're actually ready to buy your product. Doing this is going to cause you to get much higher response rates overall as a percentage, as well as convert more customers into actual buying prospects sooner rather than later. If you've been living under a rock for the last year, then you might not know about limiting the daily emails per mailbox. So you shouldn't be sending more than 20 to 30 emails per day per mailbox. You should always make sure that you're using different tools like Instantly or Smartly, to name a few, to actually make sure that you're respecting those limits. And that way, if you actually do want to send millions of emails like we do, you're just going to go ahead and scale that out, just adding more mailboxes. So if you want to send 30,000 emails per day, you'll just set up 1,000 different mailboxes. There really is no way around that. If you're not following those best practices, it's very likely that you're going to burn your mailbox sooner rather than later, causing you to need to start over the entire process of setting up new domains and new mailboxes, causing you to potentially have weeks where you're not even able to send out emails because you're trying to recover those mailboxes, or even worse, you're not even realizing that they're burned and your response rates are dropping and you have no idea why. When it comes to writing cold email copy, you always want to de-emphasize adding social proof. Focus on direct value rather than testimonials or case studies in the opening message. In cold email, the number one thing you have to do is build trust. So any claims you make about value adds or things like that are really going to fall on deaf ears in most cases, because why would the reader actually believe you? You don't have an established relationship with them, and there's so many people nowadays. There's over 3.4 billion emails a day that are sent with the intention of trying to steal someone's information. And so trust is at an all-time low when it comes to emails. Focusing on actually personalizing your emails at scale, showing the clients that, hey, I've done some research about your company, I found X, Y, and Z, which is why I'm reaching out, is actually going to help you a lot more with conversion. Now let's talk about how many steps over how long you should have in your email sequence. And there really is no hard and fast rule for this. Some people will say 2 to 3 steps is the best. Some people will say 20 steps is the best. And when I say steps, I'm just referring to how many emails do you send someone in a campaign before you stop reaching out to them. And what we found is that there is no clear answer, right? The only way to really know is when you start to get diminishing returns. If you're sending out 5 emails and you're converting 10 people on the first email, and then 9, and then 8, and then 9, and then 10 on the 5th email, probably a good sign that you should keep sending more emails, at least until you've basically squeezed all the juice out of that campaign, or at least what's possible. If you're sending out 5 emails and what you're seeing is that, hey, after the second email, I'm not really getting any responses at all, or maybe it's a very small percentage and it's not really worth our time, then you can use that as a knowledge. Okay, let's go ahead and remove these additional steps. Email warm up. You need to be making sure you're warming up your email boxes. Some different softwares out there have different features where it's basically basically, they call it email warm-up or something similar, but it's not actually email warm-up. What they're doing is they're saying, oh, I'll send 1 to 2 emails in the beginning to my prospects and then 3 to 4, but right off the gate, they're sending cold emails to prospects. That's a really dangerous thing to do, and we recommend never doing that, because if the first 2 people that you send an email to, which are prospects, mark you as spam, then you're going to basically burn your mailbox and your domain right out the gate. You want to make sure you're using mailbox warm-up tools. Instantly.ai, Lemlist, and SmartLead all have really good tools for this. We personally use Instantly, where you're actually going to add your mailbox to a pool of other mailboxes who are also using that mailbox provider. And then an AI is actually going to generate emails and send them to and from your mailbox and other mailboxes in the pool. And since these mailboxes are being controlled by the warm-up provider, you can rest assured that they're not actually going to get marked as spam. And so you can warm them up in a controlled environment for 2 to 3 weeks. And then at the end of that 2 to 3 weeks, you've already sent hundreds of emails. If you do reach out to a prospect after that 21 days, and let's say you get unlucky, and the first 3 people you reach out to mark you as spam, well, you're still in a pretty safe place because you've already sent hundreds of warm-up emails, and 3 spam reports is going to be pretty low compared to the overall average. When it comes to writing copy, you should always be experimenting. There is no one-size-fits-all copy or subject line. There's a lot of fake gurus that are out there that will give you hard and fast rules. Oh, well, a shorter email is better. A one-word subject line is better. A call to action saying this is better, but that's just not true. What we've seen with working over 100 different clients in every industry you can imagine, there's endless combinations of what people want to see. If you're talking to an HR recruiter in the enterprise space with 10,000 plus employee companies, you're going to have a totally different message, which is going to work rather than like a small business owner, like an individual plumber who lives in rural Tennessee. It really depends. And is your product very simple? Is your product very complex? Is it very new to the market and it needs explanation? It might need to be longer. You always want to A, B, C, D, E test your different email copy and let the market decide. Based on the amount of responses you're getting and the amount of deals you're closing, that's the only metric that you can really rely on to decide whether your copy is doing well or not. That's why it's always important to send, what we do is at least 20,000 emails per month so that we have a statistically significant data set where we can actually do A/B testing. If you run 10 emails, that's not enough to say this email is or isn't good. You want to send sufficient amount of emails so that you can run those experiments quickly over 1 month rather than over 3, 4, 5 months, and you can optimize your funnel as quickly as possible. When you're crafting your follow-up emails, what we have found is that it's always better to stick to brief follow-ups and thread your emails. So what does that mean? Instead of sending one email with one subject line, another email with a second subject line, and kind of repitching, it's better just to rely on that pitch you did, write a really, really good first email, and then in that second email, keep it short. Hey, I'm just following up to see if you saw my previous note. They can scroll down in that email. They can see that original email that you wrote. And what that does, it actually prompts a psychological response. When you go through something, or you read an email and you maybe star it, or you make a note, you bookmark, you say, hey, I want to respond to this. I'm going to come back to this later. But then what ends up happening is you forget about it. If you send them a second email, which is just totally separate, they might go through that same thing. I'm going to come back to this later. But when you actually thread it, they're going to see the first email you sent. They're going to remember, oh yeah, I was planning on bookmarking that and coming back to it. I didn't do that. Now, if I say I'm going to come back to it later again, I know I'm probably going to forget again. So let me just go ahead and respond quickly. That's one of the ways it triggers the psychological response. You want to make sure that you're avoiding any sort of repitching in all of your follow-ups. A lot of clients, they have this mindset. Well, if they don't respond to the pitch in the first email, then if I send them a second email pitching some other part of my product, that's probably going to resonate a lot better and it's probably going to convert them. And that makes sense. But what we find in practice is that's not actually how it works, because people don't respond typically because they didn't see what they wanted to see. Usually they don't respond because they're busy or it's just not a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, pitching some other part of your product usually doesn't change that fact. It's better just to keep the follow-ups friendly, keep them conversational without rehashing the entire offer. This is going to prevent what we call recipient fatigue and improve the engagement over time, keeping that sales cycle active. So if you want to be successful in cold email, you want to make sure you're setting realistic long-term expectations for yourself. If you're new to cold outbound, if you're new to cold email, understand that this is a long-term sales motion. It takes time and it takes persistence. You need to recognize that early campaigns might take up to 3 months before significant results emerge. I mean, I book over 1,000 opportunities per month. And when I first started, the first 3 months, I didn't book a single meeting. And because I was just trying to figure out everything, I couldn't really practice my messaging until I actually did land in the inbox. And then I was practicing my list building and my targeting. Just be patient, be persistent, understand that you need to optimize your processes over time. And eventually that's going to lead to a consistent revenue and higher ROI, right? If you're getting better every day and you're not giving up, then there's no way that you can fail. Make sure you're monitoring reply rates. Try to make sure that they're at least going up, not straight up, but you're going to have up and down, but it's trending upward. If you're thinking thinking I'm just going to book 10 closes after a month, you probably shouldn't even try cold email, because 99% of the time, even for a pro like me, that's not the case. You need to actually go through and understand what your market wants to hear. Contrary to popular belief, we've actually found that longer, well-structured emails actually perform better. You can compare response rates between concise versus longer emails in your campaigns, and we've done a lot of A/B testing, but typically longer emails perform better. And the reason why is because there's really 3 things that you should hit on when you're writing your cold email copy. So number 1, it should look like it was personalized and written by a human who actually researched that person and didn't just fill out a template. And clay.com is a really great tool that we do all of our AI copywriting at scale to make sure we achieve that goal. The second thing is people should understand what it is that you do and what the next step is. If they understand all 3 of those things, they're going to be in a pretty good place to convert if you have that good product market fit and that good targeting. There's no such thing as a confused buyer. If people don't understand what it is that you offer and how it provides value, they're not going to buy. So it's super important that 1, you build that trust through personalization, then you go into your pitch, and then you clearly outline what the next step is. And that's with a clear call to action. You don't want to include anything basic and generic like, look forward to hearing your thoughts. That doesn't actually prompt a clear next step. Would it be okay if I sent over a video, 2 to 3 minutes, breaking down exactly how this works? Would it be okay if I sent some more information? Would you totally be against a quick chat to see if this is something that would even make sense for you and your business? Right? And keep them low friction. Don't go and say, hey, would you mind doing a 1-hour demo? Because you've built a little bit of trust, but you don't want to over ask. So you want to prioritize a strong preview line. Now, what is a preview line? Well, a preview line is that first line in your email body that people are actually going to see before they ever even open the email. With the way that is, people get hundreds of emails per day, people are actually usually skipping past the subject line, and they're skimming through that 10 to 15 words that they can actually see in their email box to decide if this is something that they need to prioritize opening or not. So if there's any sort of personalization that you have, you want to front load that into the first 10 to 15 one to actually maximize your open rates. It actually can make a much bigger difference than the actual subject line. And keeping the subject line shorter, 1 to 2 words, can help conversion, but not for the reasons most people think, which is that, a shorter subject line generates curiosity to open the email. That's not the case. A shorter subject line just leaves more space for them to actually see that preview line or the first line of the body. In a lot of tools like Instantly and Smartly, you can send yourself a preview email, and then you can go ahead and open your mailbox and you can see, how much of the email can I see of that preview? And what am I including in that? Is it something that will actually get me to open the email? So let's go ahead and discuss total addressable market. A lot of times clients don't realize that their total addressable market is way bigger than they think. Usually people will go to Apollo, they'll go to Zoom Info, which are really, really great tools depending on the type of filters that you need, and they have really great data. But if you have a niche offer, like let's say, for example, you're trying to find every ophthalmology clinic or personal injury law firm within the United States, you might type that into Apollo or Zoom Info, type it into Google, ask a VA, and they'll say, there's 5,000 personal injury law firms in the United States. And you think, well, maybe cold email isn't a good fit for me because I don't really have a lot of people to reach out to. What do I need to do? A scale? Maybe it's better to go personal. Maybe it's better to do cold calling. A lot of the times, that's not a good way to actually identify what your total addressable market. And really the only way to do that is to build out a custom web scraper to scrape the entire web. Just broaden your view of what your total addressable market might be, and consider that maybe you need to look at additional data sources before you decide whether cold email is a good fit for you or not. Because the more people you're going to be able to access and reach out to is going to drive the most amount of revenue that you can for your company. Talking a little bit more about custom web scraping, what you'll find is that while it may sound super complicated, there's a lot of tools that can really help you do this. For example, clay.com, there's different search engine APIs. We've done a lot of A/B tests, and we have seen that clients who actually custom scrape the web, whether that's Google search results, whether that's Google Maps results, or some other data source such as a conference exhibitors list or something like this, they see a 10 times increase in opportunities. And we have seen that consistently across many, many different industries. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, when you're custom scraping, you're often getting leads that are a lot more aligned with what your ideal customer profile is. And number 2 is you're not relying on leads and databases that anybody can purchase for $100 a month. People that you're reaching out to, most people don't have access to them because they don't go as far as custom scraping. You're probably like one of the only people that's cold emailing them compared to hundreds of people who are competing for space in the inbox in these out-of-the-box database providers where anybody can sign up for a few $100s a month. You get higher accuracy, you get more extensive lead lists, and you get less competition in the inbox. Number 16, you want to make sure that you're refreshing your cold email copy regularly, and probably not for the reason that you may think. We've had a lot of campaigns where they have really, really good performing copy, and they're reaching out to, for example, doctors' offices, and we have a list of like 100,000 doctors' offices in the United States. And so we don't really want to change the copy because it's performing really well. But what ends up happening if you don't change it is that the spam filters that are deployed on the Google Gmail level and the Outlook level are or start to recognize, hey, this guy's kind of sending the same email for weeks and weeks, like 10,000 emails now. I think this guy might be a solicitor, and this might put my users at risk, my Gmail and my Outlook users. So we need to start to block these emails. So the way to get around that is just refresh your copy. You can keep the same overall pitch that's performing really well for you. Maybe just change out the words. Maybe just paraphrase it. Maybe just restructure your email. Put this paragraph above this paragraph instead. And just aim to update your email copy maybe every 2 weeks or every month to avoid basically what's called spam filter indexing. The best way to do it, just set it up regularly. Every 2 weeks, make sure that you're reviewing your copy, checking the opportunity rate. That's going to make sure that you're continuing to land in the inbox and that you're continue to sustain that success that you're having with that email copy and with that pitch. You always want to make sure that your copy is personalized and research driven. There's a lot of tools that you can use to do research. I'm sure you've heard of AI agents. They may sound complex, but there's a lot of tools, like I said, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but clay.com is really, really great at doing this. You can personalize your emails at scale, reflecting, genuine interest in their company or in that specific prospect. Including that at the top of the email is going to build a ton of trust, and make sure that you're doing that to drive the highest conversion so that you can get the most amount of leads out of any list that you're running. A lot of people don't get this one right, but you want to make sure you're optimizing your digital footprint to support your cold emails. Recognize that your online presence, such as, your website, your LinkedIn, what shows up when people Google search your name or your company name, is going to amplify your cold email effectiveness. So if somebody sees your cold email, contrary to popular belief, people don't respond right away and say, I want to buy, here's my credit card, or let's get on a call, right? They usually just check up your website to see if you're legit. They want to see, is this a trustworthy person? Maybe they're looking for reviews on Clutch or Trustpilot or Upwork. Maybe they're looking for followers on LinkedIn or YouTube or a school community that you might have. All of these things are going to really help build that trust and get over that wall, which is, who is this guy and should I trust him and should I spend time with him? And so that's going to ensure a positive first impression. A lot of people might think this one is obvious, but a lot of times it's not. Follow up with interested leads immediately. You want to act on interest quickly by following up with these leads as soon as possible. And if they have a phone number in their signature and they responded to your cold email, call them right away. Best within 5 minutes if possible is going to give you the most amount of conversion. At minimum, you really need to do it within a couple hours. If you're doing it the next day, a lot of times they're going to forget what you're even following up about, or they're going to have lost their interest. The second thing you have to worry about is somebody might view your email, research what it is that you do. Let's say you offer animated explainer videos. There's a lot of cold email for those. And then they watch your website and they go, I think I do want an animated explainer video. And then you don't respond for 3 days. They might actually end up researching other providers and going with one of them and meeting with them and building up a lot of trust and relationship with them before you ever even respond. You worked really, really hard to get the list of leads, to set up your domains and mailboxes. Don't blow it all at the last minute by not following up. This is going to really help make sure you're driving more revenue out of your campaigns. This one, I just want to focus a little bit more on calls to actions. I know we covered this a little bit already, but ensure that your call to action is clear and minimizes any friction in the response process. You do not want to follow up with asking them to give you something if you haven't provided value up front. For obvious reasons around the fact that these people have no idea who you are, and asking them to commit to a 1-hour call is probably going to be a big lift. It can also hurt your deliverability. So make sure that you're following up saying non-frictionless things like, would it be okay if I sent some more info? Hey, would it make sense for us to discuss this? Is there someone else at the company that it might make sense for me to discuss this with? Are you totally against a quick chat to see if we might have an opportunity to collaborate here? That's going to really ensure that people don't feel scared to follow up, because 99 times out of 100, most people, what they want to do is follow ups. They want to get more information. They want to ask, what's your pricing? What's your billing model? What's this? What's that? Before they really want to commit their time to meeting with you, because nobody wants to waste their time. They're all super busy. Adding to that, it's also good to include a PS in the email, giving them an easy way to opt out. If you're not interested in this, just go ahead and respond all set, and I'll go ahead and I'll take you off my list. And you can easily set up an automation within tools like Instantly. Just click on the button that if their response contains the word all set, then it'll automatically remove them from the sequence. Now let's talk about email deliverability when it comes to copy. There's a lot of things to do with email deliverability that we already talked about, like Warmup and domains and keeping sending volume low. But a lot of people don't realize the actual content of your copy can result in you going to spam. So there's a lot of different tools you can out there. Just use Google and you can search up email spam word checkers, but certain words are going to get you to land in spam because, like I said, there's 3.4 billion malicious emails that get sent every single day trying to steal people's information. And they usually use certain words to try to lure people into sharing their information. Urgency. Hey, you need to do this immediately. Free. Hey, this is a free offer. Hey, this is no risk. The second thing is the content of your email when it comes to rich media content. Are you including links? Are you using that pretty HTML content that has design signs and all that kind of stuff. You want to avoid that as well. Do not include a link to your website at the end of your email. You don't need that. If you set up your domains correctly, they're going to redirect to your website. And so when people see your email from John at trycoldemail.com, if they go to trycoldemail.com to check you guys out, it's going to redirect to your website, cold.email. And so you don't need to include your website. Those are a few things that you can do to make sure that you're maximizing deliverability. Above and beyond that, you want to make sure that you're never tracking open rates. If you're tracking open rates, you are going to increase the chance of going to spam significantly. We never track open rates. And a lot of people think, well, how am I going to know if my campaigns are successful if I'm not tracking open rates? Well, you'll know because people are responding and saying that they're interested. We have campaigns we run all the time, no open rates, and they book 20 meetings in the first week. We don't know how many people opened it, but we know 20 people booked a meeting, and that's enough to know that it's performing well. And so that's the best way to monitor effectiveness. Replies, meeting booked, close sales. Now you have all the lessons I learned to generate millions in sales from cold email, and you can apply these to your own business now and today. But to actually apply these lessons properly and see success like I have, you're going to need the right tools and systems in place. And one of those main tools is clay.com. And that's why I created this video right here, where I break down everything you need to know about sending personalized cold email at scale with the most powerful tool that I've found on the market. Go ahead and check it out here now, and I look forward to adding more values for you guys.